freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode number 396 of Gun Freedom Radio, where we engage, we educate, and we inform. We are brought to you by azfirearmsauctions.com, where you set the price on guns, ammo, and accessories. I am one of your hosts, Cheryl Todd.
And I'm the other guy, Dan Todd. Our theme today is the Patriot Barbie, and our guest is Lindsey Graham. Lindsey, who is nationally known as the Patriot Barbie, but I would call a superhero, defied the lockdown in Oregon, where she reopened and single-handedly took out the
tyrannical government.
After losing 6 businesses and being threatened, harassed, and tormented by the media, Antifa, the governor of Oregon, and the BLM activists, Lindsey and her family moved to Arizona for safety and freedom. Starting over, she became a loud and bold conservative activist, influencer, podcast host, author, and firebrand media personality.
Well, welcome to the show and to Arizona, Lindsey.
Thank you. I love it here. I could never go back to Oregon. I love Arizona way too much. I belong here.
Absolutely. Well, your spirit for sure was very much not Oregonian, which is a sad thing to say. You know, our whole show is designed to talk to people in a middle space, right? They're not pegged out as, you know, in one political arena or another. We're trying to help them understand that the Second Amendment is in the Bill of Rights, which is for everyone. And so it's weird that we even have states now that it's sort of like, if you're a freedom lover, don't move there.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's true too. Oregonians, after I left, I saw a mass influx of people leaving and just saying, you know what, it's such a bummer, but the leadership up there does not respect any of her, citizens' freedoms. And so people were leaving and going to freer states. Like they made their own, they made their own bed.
And so when you were making that move, and first of all, thank you for coming from a non-freedom loving state and not voting. That's the thing that drives me nuts, right? People come from California or Washington or Oregon to Arizona, and then they just immediately start voting in the same junk that was so oppressive to their taxes and their way of life and their individual liberties. And thank you for not doing that. But why Arizona? I mean, sometimes people think, Texas, it's the bastion of freedom, or someplace like that. What made you think of Arizona?
Well, my dad had moved down here about 3 years before us, and he would rave about it, the weather and, the outdoor activities. And when we were fighting the government and Antifa and BLM up in Oregon, we had gotten canceled to the point of not being able to be successful in Oregon with 6 businesses. Like we were blacklisted, and we looked around everything we had built, and we had no intention of moving ever. Like we were going to be Oregonians for life. And all of a sudden we just saw our whole life crumble. And my mother-in-law, my husband's mom, wanted to move to Arizona as well. And it was weird because we were so bummed that all of our family was moving to Arizona, and it was never going to be an option for us because we had 6 businesses in Oregon. Well, then it's like literally God went and said, I'm going to take these from you because I've got something better. And it wasn't necessarily a God moment. My faith was still kind of lukewarm at that point. But I remember the moment I sat in my living room in Oregon. I looked around. We had just built a custom home, our forever home. And I knew that my life was over as I knew it. And my mother-in-law said, maybe you guys should move to Arizona with us. And I literally just went, okay, there's nothing left for us here. Okay. Wow. It was like okay, just fine.
Just a
We
release.
we didn't want to move. I'm getting teary-eyed. We didn't want to move. We didn't think to move. It was almost like God just reached down and said, let me just handle this for you. Because if we would have chosen, maybe we would have chosen Florida or Texas. But all of our family was moving to Arizona. And it was like this one rare moment in our life when we had lost everything that was keeping us there. And it's just, the decision was made for us, and it's been the best decision ever.
You know, it's weird because like Oregon needs people like you,
Yeah.
but we need you too, because the people that are moving from Oregon and keeping the old ways and trying to influence Arizona, we need strong people here too. But it's a shame, because what's going to happen to Oregon now? I mean, when all the strong people leave, what's going to be left?
Yeah. Well, and that is really sad to think about, because I know there are people up there, there's people I know and love up there that are genuinely stuck. They cannot move. They cannot run for their lives. And I'm thankful that I was able to. But what I think needs to happen is, I think these communities need to fall. They need to collapse upon themselves for the leadership and the people that voted for these people to actually see what happens when the capitalists, what happens when the people that value freedom and family values and morals and true justice, when they leave, you are left with anarchy. And so they need to see the repercussions of their behavior.
So you are now on the other side of all of that. And I can still remember watching, it was probably Fox News one night, and I saw your face for the first time. And I thought, holy cow, this woman, you have a beauty spa, a beauty salon, right?
Yeah.
This woman has more backbone than most of the people who I would say are in this, pro 2A, pro, patriotism movement. And you inspired me through the airwaves to say, yeah, we give those inches that turn into miles way too often. And here this woman, somebody could discount you at, like, I think even your name there, the Patriot Barbie, wasn't it supposed to be sort of a backhanded attempt to slander you from the people on the side of the antifas and stuff?
Yeah.
And so people could say, oh, well, she does hair, she does makeup and stuff. Who cares,
Yeah.
And yet you're the voice that, again, I'm going to give credit to God. God chose to shout through that TV screen to me to give me encouragement. So now that you're on the other side of that, and all of that was coming at you would have crushed so many people, any lesser person. What does that look like now? Are there things you would have done differently in that journey, or do you think that it took every single word and every single step that you took?
I'm glad you said the word lesser person, because I've used that terminology before, and lesser person doesn't mean necessarily like a weaker person, or I'm not above anybody, of course, but I believe it's what God was using me for in that moment. And the cancel culture is so horrific, that I have said, and I would continue to say, a lesser person would have committed suicide.
Yeah.
It was my mother died in 2009 when I was young. This was harder than that. It was the epitome of a physical, emotional, spiritual beatdown, to the point where you think you really shouldn't be on this earth. Nobody likes you. You're a terrible person. And that was hard. But I will say that was only hard for probably a week. And God gave me the strength to bounce back from that. And that experience gave me the moment when I had to turn to Christ for my identity. Because if you think the whole world hates you, what do you have to live for? Well, I have my children to live for and my family. And I knew too, I wasn't suicidal, by the way. I knew that they were purposely trying to make me feel this way, that it was a spiritual attack. And I have gone back and looked at what I've lost, which was this huge, beautiful, secure income, 6 businesses, our custom home that we built, a life and friends in Oregon. And there is no way that I can say I regret anything, because just like the butterfly effect, just what God does, every single horrific message, every phone call, every email, everything, every threat had to happen for us to get to the point where we were so devastated that we would do what we did, which is leave everything behind, close up shop, sell things, and essentially run for our lives to a new state. I cannot imagine being back in Oregon and being a hairstylist and being back in that life. It looks like someone else's life, because God has shown me very clearly that this fight is more important. This fight has purpose. And I don't discredit people who are hairstylists. God uses everyone where they're at, but he wanted me to be here, and he wanted me to be the Patriot Barbie, and he wanted me to get canceled so that I would have no fear of getting canceled again and be able to speak up for these things. So I can't regret a single moment.
Well, it looks to me like, Oregon needs to completely get destroyed before it can build back up again. That's kind of what you did with your life. You let everything go. You gave up everything to rebuild your life, and it's only going to be stronger. It's only going to be better. All those evil emails and things that you got, every one of them made you a little bit stronger.
We could call you the
and
Patriot.
You know what else too is reading those emails, which I still get like daily, by the way, hateful emails from the left. Imagine that. I look at them now and I get a little bit sad for them, and then I laugh and say, I would never take the time out of my day to hate someone that much, and especially send an email telling them how much I hate them that much. And it reiterates their hate, makes me completely confident that we are in a spiritual battle and that I'm on the side of right.
Yes, absolutely. And listening to what Dan just said, and you just said, I feel like we could call you the Patriot Phoenix, right? Rising from the ashes of what was, and what a reprioritization that really only God can do for us, right? The things that we used to think were so important. We look back and we're like, oh, I mean, it was valuable to me, and it's valuable to a lot of people, but what I'm doing now, would I ever have traded it? Never in a million years would I go back. And I think that's a powerful statement. When you came out here to Arizona, did you restart businesses? Like, tell us what that journey was, were any of your businesses things you could bring with you? Like our show pretty much can go with me wherever I go.
Yeah. So when we moved, I would like to, in full disclosure, be honest that I wasn't ready to let go of the things that God was trying to take from me. I flew back up to Oregon once a month, and I did my client's hair as a source of income, because we had no income in Arizona.
Right.
For a solid year, I flew back up to Oregon, and for 5 days straight, I would work from like 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. doing hair, and then fly home. And I closed my salon and went up and just did hair at someone else's salon for a while. When I finally, I feel like God was like, okay, you're not willing to let it go. Let me just slowly kind of remove from you. Clients started leaving because I was only there for a week, and it didn't work with their schedule. And just all kinds of reasons, right? A lot of my clients moved out of Oregon. So I was like, oh, well, I'm losing clients because you guys are moving. And so after a year of that, exactly, it was time to let it go. So I let it go. And then I said, you know what, I'll try to do hair in Arizona. I had not embraced the Patriot Barbie quite yet. Like, it was there. It was a hobby. My husband was like, what are you doing with that? I'm like, I'm just having fun, going to political events and speaking. And around that time, I kept trying to pursue the careers that I'd been used to that were comfortable, like doing hair. And I just had no passion left, had no motivation. I got my real estate license, and I was like, okay, I'll be a real estate agent. I'll specialize in people moving from blue states, right? And God just kept closing that door. And it was like all these things, but these were financially motivated, right? I need to provide for our family. I'm used to being a working mom. I need a career. He just kept closing the doors. And then I finally sat down and wrote my book, which is something he called me to do. And the process of writing the book was me acknowledging that I had been through something that no one else on earth exactly had been through. And that I don't believe God would let me go through something like that and just to have a great story to tell around the campfire, that he wanted to use it. And so I prayed that he would open the doors for me that he wants me to go through, and that he would shut and continue to shut the doors that did not lead to whatever path he wanted me to be on. And as weird as it sounds, it was just like, you're Patriot Barbie, you're going to be an activist. Sorry, there's no money involved. That's what you're going to do.
It's true.
Yeah. And my husband was able to do like some real estate investing and provide for us while I decided to play Patriot Barbie, as we called it. And I believe that, you know, just like in Oregon, all of that had to happen. I had to realize that I had a bigger purpose, and the bigger purpose is to be a voice and be an activist and use the platform that God gave me to glorify him, but also speak up for those who aren't able to. Yeah. And so we don't own any businesses in Arizona. We just launched a clothing line, but it's full on like Patriot Jesus. So I'm like, you can't cancel me. We kind of are what we are. Like, we already stand for this. So it's not, you can't come out later and try to call us racist, you know, homophobic. So yeah, that's where we're at now. Is the only business we own is I have my podcast, Patriot Barbie podcast. I have a book, and then we have our apparel line, which is Crown of Country.
I love that. And you're wearing one of your designs today.
Yes, I'll show you guys.
Guns and Glory. Yeah,
the Guns and Glory
shall not be infringed.
Yep.
I love it.
Cute. We have it in a t-shirt too.
I love it. Yeah, this is sweatshirt weather. We get it for a minute and a half, so we enjoy our sweaters and our sweatshirts, but mostly t-shirts. Well, that is an incredible journey to go on. And you know, you are so right. Being an advocate, I consider myself an advocate for the Second Amendment, but it takes acting. So I understand the activist part of that, but it is nothing that you can make money on. So I volunteer all of my hours, and thank God my husband is okay with that.
But I only work until 10 at night every night.
You know, it's only 50 hours a day. But we're a good team in that way, and God has provided in that way. And our daughter works with us now in our auction house. And
that's awesome.
But freedom's not free.
It isn't free.
No.
Don't have a passion, like a deep-seated burning passion. You're not going to do this work for very long, because thankless in a lot of ways. But I'm so encouraged by you that you are having such a platform. You've built a platform. God's given you a platform, and you're stepping into it and being a good steward of all the things that he placed in you to do that. Which brings me to an event that I am so excited about, and I get to help organize every year, that you are going to take the stage and be a speaker at, and that is our 10th annual Celebrate and Protect the Second Amendment Rally event on Saturday, February 18, 2023. I would say the year, because these podcasts lives forever.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And you are going to come on and you're going to talk to us about why is it important, this work we do, this activism, this advocacy. And so tell folks now, like, give us a little preview. Why is all of that so important?
Well, there's a part of my story that did not make national news. It made a lot of local news, but I don't think they wanted to broadcast this part of my story. After I became kind of a national public figure in Oregon for defying mandates, it was very clear that the line was drawn between the left and the right, and the left absolutely hated me. And when the George Floyd riots started, it was either Antifa or BLM. Someone had shared with me a post where they were threatening to burn down my salon first. It was a call to action to burn down my salon and, quote, kick Lindsey Graham's ass. And so it got shared to me so many times, and I went, oh my gosh, like they probably will. I've seen what they do on the news. Mm-hmm. My salon is all glass. If nothing else, they could have just thrown a Molotov cocktail through the window. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't realize the reach that I had at that point, but I found out pretty quick because I posted a call to arms for downtown Salem. And I said, I do not, I've been fighting for 3 weeks against the government to keep this salon open. There's no way I'm letting someone burn it down in the name of racial justice, right? I'm not a racist, and this town isn't racist, and that doesn't make sense. And so that spread like wildfire. I mean, I didn't realize how important this was to so many people, because I don't know if you know this, but I wasn't political at this time at all. I mean, I voted Republican my whole life. And I would say that I had conservative values, but I stayed away from politics. And I just kind of was shocked that it was so clear. This certain type of person thinks I'm a hero, and this certain type of person thinks I'm the devil. Mm-hmm. And that post got shared, I think, 70,000 times. Wow. And 400 people showed up into downtown Salem utilizing their Second Amendment rights. And it was military, ex-military, veterans, ex-police officers, a lot of the groups that would be considered far right, even motorcycle gangs showed up and just said, hey, this girl stood up for our freedom, like, we want to protect her. And, I don't have a vetting process. I just did a call to arms and they showed up. But I was running ops. Like, people from other businesses were texting me saying, I'm not in town. Can you have my business protected? And I was like, yes. I'd send 3 guys down to the candy factory or whatever it was. And Antifa did riot, and they threw, urine-filled bottles at the police, and they marched right past my salon, and nothing was done to downtown Salem. I mean, nothing. So later, the police, someone from the police station called me and said, you've seen Portland, it's burning. It's like literally still burning. If you hadn't done what if you hadn't done what you did, Salem would be Portland right now, because we showed them. And I was not down there all those nights. I was down there the first night, and then I hit my emotional wall. But they stayed down there for 3, 4, 5 nights, as long as the riots were violent. And it's like, we told them, you will not bully us. Yes. And no one was shot. No shots were even fired. Everyone was educated with their weapons. Everyone was trained. Yep. Everyone had self-control. There was not a threat. And so this didn't make the news, because it would showcase that, hey, if you do stand outside your salon using your Second Amendment rights to protect your business, nothing will happen to it. So,
that is amazing. It really, truly, the Second Amendment is that or else, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, we're just saying, this is our boundary. Mm-hmm. This is where we are standing. And if you don't have that or else, you have Portland. When you do have that or else, just the fact that it is there didn't have to be used. As you said, there was no triggers pulled. It changed the entire dynamic. And remind me, Dan, you'll remember this maybe better than I will, but remember the Koreans on rooftops, like that has become,
back in California many years ago.
Yeah. And it was during what was the guy?
Lots of riots or something. I can't remember the guy that I understand. He either pulled out of a truck, pulled out of a semi truck.
And can't we all just get along? Rodney
King.
Oh, Rodney King.
It was King, wasn't it?
Okay, Rodney King, I think. Man, I should have looked that up. But I didn't know I was going to go there. But so yes, so we even remember now, the Koreans on rooftops, they had their firearms, they were protecting their businesses.
And And they were ridiculed for that too, by the way, even
Of
though
course.
they saved
course they were.
their businesses.
Of
But
course. And so now we have, Barbie with bullets or something. You know what I mean?
Bullet Barbie. I actually like the Patriot Phoenix too. I'm kind of thinking like, ooh, how can I use those?
Yeah, for sure. That's
Yeah.
yours. Run with that. Because I think you embodied it, you lived it, you should get to use it. But these stories, I mean, this is real life. When we go in, I'm part of a group called the DC Project. See the teal sign behind me.
I do.
When we go in and talk to our legislators, we're not lobbyists. I'm a mom, I'm a grandma, right? And I just talk from my experience. I don't go in there with, taglines and, catchphrases that you hear on the news. I just say, look, this bill that you want to pass or whatever, this is how it impacts me as a human being, because that is my story and they can't negate my story.
Right.
They don't have
Yep.
to, I at least cause a little bit of cognitive dissonance, if nothing else.
Yes.
When I talk to the people that hate the idea that we have guns. And that's what you just shared with us. That was just your personal journey and your personal story. And I even myself am feeling like, man, if I'm telling people, hey, the candy store down the street needs your help, you're the guys with the firearms, I'm going to feel like, oh my gosh, what's my liability in this? Should I call my lawyer? Like we
Right.
get so wrapped around those wheels instead of just doing what we know needs to be done.
Yeah.
And so thank you for sharing that. And I don't know if that's exactly what you're going to share with our crowd on Rally Day, but that right there would do it.
Okay. Well, I'll share that and I'll expand upon it on why
Well,
I believe that was the right choice.
this rally that we have is super important because we're starting to see a change in Arizona like what happened in Oregon. We are seeing more politicians elected that maybe have more liberal views. And it's we need to stand up and we need to let people know that get off the couch and get down here and speak, listen, and react, right?
Even that, more liberal views. Like why don't we make the language what it really is? Like you are a constitutionalist,
right?
Or you're a anti-constitutionalist. Like why have we started hiding what we really believe in these terms that could really mean
trying
anything?
to be nice,
right?
Liberal's a nice way to say.
Gosh,
and
you know what?
Like you're for liberty, right?
Yeah, and liberal is sort of what it has already kind of tried to. You don't say Democrat anymore because that's too polarizing. So, and then you can't say, I don't even know what else you can't say. But we've gone from calling it Democrat to the left to liberals to it's like, well, how much more can we sugarcoat the idea? You guys believe this very direct and pertinent way, and that way is anti-freedom. So we could call you anti-freedomists. I mean, but then it's basically like, well, an anti-freedomist is a liberal. A liberal is a leftist is a Democrat. I mean, they are so good at calling us far right, but I'm like, you're far left.
I know. I'm like, you say far right like it's a bad thing.
Yeah, like, I'm like, yep, proudly far right. Very far.
If far right makes me a constitutionalist, absolutely, I wear it proudly. And because that Overton window has shifted over the years of what is socially and culturally acceptable, it has shifted so far to the left. Why are you giggling?
Because I just think, okay, we have people that believe in the constitutionalists, right? And then we have turds.
Okay.
I can't say it because that's
well, you just did say it. Oh my
goodness. This is America. It was founded by the Constitution, and we should follow the Constitution or get out.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's it.
We're trying to change it. If you don't like the country, right? I didn't like Oregon, and I could have stayed and tried to change it, but I left. I went to somewhere where my freedom was valued. If you don't like America, you don't like what we stand for. If you don't like people having guns, go to Australia. They don't have guns there. It doesn't scare you so much. Go.
Exactly. That's the thing. And I do think that, that progression, what we would have called the left or the progressives or the liberals, really, they've become Marxists. Like if you look up what Marxism is, that's really where that ideology has
Turns.
moved to. Stop it. And so, if that means I'm staying on that edge over here, trying to push the window back to the Constitution, okay, I'll wear it. You
Yep.
call me that all day long.
Because you can't
Don't be
call
ashamed.
Republican. Not all Republicans are constitutionalists either.
That's true.
That's
true.
the
That's
problem.
true. But that's
So-
again why we don't say, they almost just say freedom and anti-freedom people.
I
Yeah,
like it.
right.
I like it. We've got to start wrapping up a little bit here, but definitely one of the questions I wanted to ask you from your perspective after what you've experienced and lived through, what would you say the biggest fight? And we even have to be careful of our words anymore, right? Because we could
Can't
say
say
the word
fight. It would be like inciting violence.
exactly. So the biggest point of conversation.
My gosh.
It's like what
The biggest
would you-
fight.
yes,
Yeah.
in America. What do you think that is right now?
Oh, right now. I think it's for the children. I think that everything we do, everything that we don't stand up for is going to affect our children. And it's a scary thought to look at what the next generation is. Because if the adults in the liberal left are this stupid and I'm not even trying to be mean. If they're this ignorant and stupid and uneducated and unaccepting and intolerant and hateful, imagine what kind of children they're raising.
Yeah.
Right.
And for those of us that do not believe in the vile, disgusting, immoral, spiritually void things that they believe in, we've got to get our kids out of their grasp. So out of public schools, into church, out of any government funded facility where you're leaving your child or your children unattended and unsupervised by yourself. You don't know what they're indoctrinating them with. TV, woke TV stations, Netflix, Disney Plus. I'm far right, guys, far right. I'm like, nobody gets access to my child without me present, and nobody gets access to my child without my permission. That includes the government. That includes Disney. If we let them, Dan, you said this, we gave them an inch, right? They took a mile with our freedom. Yeah. If you give them an inch of your child, they will take a mile. So that's a broad, what's the biggest fight? The kids, it's broad, but it's parents needing to protect and take authority over their children in every single area of life.
But that's work, Lindsey. That's work. I mean, I didn't raise my kid. I didn't have kids, so I had to raise them. Come on.
Not all of us can be full-time activists.
Right. Well, you're right, though. You know what? All it takes is 20 years of feeding this crap to the kids, and they become the crap.
Oh man, all it takes is 1 year in public school and 1 year in college, and these kids' brains are so easily brainwashed. It's so easy.
Right.
Well, and going back to what you were feeling in Oregon and going through all that, there is such a spiritual battle happening in this nation right now. Like, you can cut it with a knife. And I think that is the underpinning of so much of what we're seeing.
Yeah.
And so I do think that it's important to get your kids, and not just in church, because there's a lot of woke churches out there. There's a lot of really weak
you got to be very
pastors.
discerning, very discerning.
But reconnected, just like we want to reconnect with our Constitution, we need to reconnect our lives with that spiritual relationship, personal spiritual relationship with our Creator. But how would you say, I mean, maybe we're defining it right now, but how does the average person, like, so Oregon, all of that stuff, you're just living your life, having a family and a business, 6 businesses. This all found its way to your doorstep. We were just gun shop owners, and all this negative messaging about guns and gun owners found its way to our doorstep to the point that I couldn't be quiet anymore. And now we have a podcast. I'm not a journalist. I'm not I'm just a citizen who said, no, I want to tell my own story. Is it going to take that for every person? How do people get involved?
I think so. I mean, I tell people all the time, the one call to action would be to pray about it. Pray about what you think God might use you for in your movement. If you're not doing something, then you're not doing your part, right? You've got to be doing something. And that could be tiny. That could be just taking authority in your own family over your own kids. It could be that small. Pulling your kids from public school and either homeschooling or private Christian, helping someone else with their kids. It could be tiny. But if you're just going about your day, living your life, and you haven't changed a thing in 2 years, you are assisting the problem. And people need to be praying about, all right, Lord, you've given me gifts and characteristics and strengths and weaknesses that can be applied to this current spiritual battle. What are they and how can I use them? And that's what people need to be doing.
People don't need it. Not every person on the earth has to have a podcast, but they need to be a voice like a podcast and talk to their friends, talk to their neighbors, and fight back. Well, I can't use the word fight, but you need to stay strong with your opinions. And I don't know, it's bad, but it's like us. I mean, we don't have kids, young kids anymore, but
we have grandkids.
How do you work,
7 and 3.
live your life, and monitor the school system if you can't homeschool your kids? You have to get you have to get active with the school boards and find out what's going on. What are your kids learning? Ask your kids what they're teaching, right?
Yeah.
And we don't. We just turn on the TV and kids go in the bedroom and that's it,
Yep.
Well,
it's very
so
sad.
much of what the other side, we'll just call them the other side right now, does, I think it's almost purposely designed to provoke us, right? Like to make us do something that they can point at and say, see, they're the crazy ones. They're the violent ones. They're the ones that are talking about fighting all the time, right?
Yeah.
So we have to be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. And that is a very difficult balance to strike, especially when it feels like there is such an onslaught all the time towards our values, our way of life, as you said, coming after our children. Our show starts with a quote by Ronald Reagan. He's giving a speech and he says, our rights are not in our freedom is not in our DNA. It has to be taught, right, to the next generation. And freedom is only one generation away. It's not even a generation away anymore. It's like it's an election away. It's like a blink away because we have been asleep for too long. And we need voices like yours. You're a wife, you're a mom, you have owned a business, and you have survived. You're a survivor of what it looks like when we don't hold that line.
And I've said this before. When I chose to open up, again, not political, it was because if we were to have stayed shut down, we would have gone bankrupt. We couldn't pay our house. We couldn't pay our car payments. We didn't have money because our businesses were closed. Right. Oh, you can offset your mortgage. Great. So we're going to owe you $60,000. And it's not going to work for me. Oh, you can pay your rent on your salon later. Great. Well, my stylists aren't going to pay rent on a salon that they didn't get to use.
Right.
And so then I'm going to owe you $30,000. I mean, it made no sense why more people weren't at their wits' end. If I had stayed shut down and complied, I would have truly lost everything. Bankruptcy, lost our home. So it was non-negotiable. And that is where I think people, it's sad that they haven't been pushed to that edge yet, or that they were pushed to that edge and their choice was to still comply.
Well, how about the people that say, oh, it doesn't matter if Antifa's burning down Portland because all these businesses have insurance. So it just makes you whole again because somebody's going to cut you a check. Like they have zero understanding.
That is what they said to me after I got canceled for calling to arms. They said, you could have just filed an insurance claim. You're such a greedy, selfish, B word. And I went, you think I owe it to a bunch of little white liberals to let them burn my salon down, and then it's fine for me to take the brunt of filing the claim, gathering the evidence,
Mhm.
putting me months out of work because I don't have a soul. Like,
Right.
you're so crazy if you think that that has zero consequences on me
Right.
to allow someone to burn my business down.
Right.
Oh, it's fine. I'll just file insurance. No, I don't have a salon. And now 25 people don't have a salon, most of which all agree with you, by the way.
Right.
And now we have months of paperwork, and it's I don't know why I feel like I need to say this stuff. It just seems like common sense, but
It's
they
crazy.
don't have it. They don't have it.
They don't.
Well, to give you a little bit of peace there, Lindsay, the things like BLM or BML or BLM, they're crumbling. They're starting to crumble. You know, they're finding out all this money that was spent the wrong ways. And so I remember a long time ago, we got audited by the IRS. Oh, I was so afraid because I did all the taxes. And I'm thinking, this is the end, right? My accountant that I hired to fight them even said, you're in trouble.
Uh-oh.
You know, then I started listening and seeing how the IRS was getting in a bunch of trouble at that time. They were doing stuff wrong, and they were doing $1 million parties and whatever. And I prayed, and Andy Stanley, I listened to some of his stuff. He's a pastor. And then my accountant calls me and says, you know what? They're going to owe you money. And I'm going, what? He says, you made a mistake. It's not, you didn't do anything wrong. And end up that what cost me $35,000 to fight it, but I did win, and they had to give me money back, but not what I paid to fight it. But anyway, it's like, you know, it all comes down to God. He put me in a place and protected me. And I think the same thing for you. You're going to see these people that have been fighting you are crumbling.
Yeah.
And then you're going to get your satisfaction one day.
Yep. Absolutely.
All righty, my friend. Well, thank you so much for being here with us today. We've mentioned your book, and then I forgot to ask you to say the title on air. So let's talk about that real quick, and then tell folks how they can follow you and buy your book.
All right. The book is called Targeted: One Mom's Fight for Life, Liberty, and the Pursuit of Happiness. You can buy it on patriotbarbie.com. And if you go to patriotbarbie.com, you can find everything. My clothing line is called Crown of Country. It's under the shop tab. Same with my book. My podcast has a page. You can subscribe, and yeah, all those things.
That's fantastic. Well, I am so proud to know you. And it's just such an interesting thing to see you on the TV screen. And the next thing you move to the same state where we do our work. And then we get to be at the rally together in February.
Yes, you'll get to meet and listen to her live on February 18th at the state capitol.
Arizona State Capitol.
I'll be calling my people to come. We need warm bodies.
We do. Because not only that community building that happens there, but the visual that it sends to the people that think that, again, we're just this weird fringe element of people who like to play with their guns, you know. No, we are serious moms, dads, grandmas. We're every color, every religion, we're every socioeconomic on the scale. And when we come together, it is to celebrate and protect our Second Amendment, and we get to do that together.
Yes, love it. Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm very thankful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
God bless, Lindsay.
God bless.
Bye-bye.
We need strong people like that.
Yeah.
You know, really bad
She's
right now,
awesome.
especially with the political situation that we're in. So welcome her to Arizona.
Absolutely. So we do have to run pretty quickly, but I wanted to say that, you know, when the other side, they do things that try to provoke us. Well, she recently spoke at I think it was a school board meeting, and she dressed up as an actual cat, like she was in a cat costume, little whiskers drawn on her face and the whole thing. And the reason that she did it was to speak back to some of this stuff going on in the schools about gender identity.
So she was a cat?
So she said, you know, well, I say I'm a cat, so you have to address me as a cat. Do you believe I'm a cat? And nobody on the panel would raise their hand that they believed she was a cat. And, you know, she's just trying to make a point. She's like, you know, do what you want as an adult in your home. I could care less. But But with our children, when their minds and their opinions and their values are being formed, school is not the place for all this gender identity stuff. And so I appreciated that. But the other side will look at her and say, oh, she's hateful and
Right.
she's bigoted and it's like, no, that's really not the case. And just because you call her that doesn't make her that any more than her dressing like a cat
Right.
makes her a
Oh,
cat.
I agree. I think it's clever.
I love it. So super excited that she's going to be coming out to the rally and bringing all of her fiery, just energy. And I hope she does do something with that Patriot Phoenix. I think it's so perfect for her. All right. Well, thank you so much to our amazing guest, Lindsey Graham, the Patriot Barbie. Thank you to our awesome listeners all over the planet.
Yep.
Thank you for spending your time with us. It's your most precious, valuable, and finite resource. And when you spend it with us, we don't hate that.
Nope.
If you want to see any of our videos that we have ever posted, please go to YouTube or Gunstreamer. A lot of the different places on the web, we're growing that presence. So wherever you find your favorite podcasts, you will find us there, Spotify even. And if you want to listen to the audio only version, because maybe you're out for a long bike ride or a Sunday drive or something, and you can't have the screen on, go to our website, GunFreedomRadio.com, click the on-demand tab, and
binge listens to your heart's content, darling.
he does it better than I do now. I love it. All right. And if you want to see photos and bios and links to books and other works of all of our guests, including Lindsey Graham, go to the guest tab. It's a tremendous and ever-growing resource. And until next time, what are we going to do, Dan?
We're going to pray for our nation.
Absolutely.
We're going to pray for Oregon.
Pray for Oregon.
We're going to pray for our leaders, even the ones. Even the ones.
Don't
Okay.
But you know what? We have so many brand new people who have stepped forward and taken these roles of leadership and to be representatives. Let's pray especially for them, because just as, whenever you start something new, you're growing and building your way of doing that thing.
So as a new senator or whatever, congressperson, and you're wondering, I wonder if Danny and Cheryl like me. Well, I'll tell you what, guys, if you believe in this and you follow this, we love you, if that matters for anything.
That's right.
We
took
love
an
you.
oath.
Huh?
Every one of them
Right.
takes an
Took an oath
to protect and defend that in our Constitution or our Bill of Rights.
So if you just follow this, you'd be surprised how many people will follow you.
That's true. All right. I love it. Until next time, be good to each other. Have a great week.
It's a really great week.
Really great week. The new year. And God bless.
Bye-bye.